called the strokes. Some people think that it's in regards to the band, but it's not really. What I did here was that I created a three-dimensional object. Once again, it's a very crude representation of what I wanted to do. But it's a three-dimensional object. And what I did was I scanned one of my two-dimensional paintings into the computer. I applied the painting as a texture to this object, and I had some more paint strokes sort of flying around. These were all geometric objects that you could actually interact with in space. And so exit over. I felt as though, like I said, it was very crude. And I didn't feel as though it was really the vision that I wanted to show to people. So what I had to do was I had to come to some resolution about, can you try closing the file? I had to come to some resolution about how I wanted to end this semester, because we had one more shot at our project. And I decided to say, okay, I don't have much time. I need to throw out my animation, and I need to give a clear shot of what I want to present to these people. So what I did is I stopped the camera movement. I used camera techniques, such as depth of field, and I came up with this image. This is a still shot, and it's sort of hard to see again, but it's much more in focus here than it is out here. I believe you can all see that at least. It's very rich colors. This is an inside shot of the same project that I just showed you. So you can see here already, there's a lot greater detail. I really wanted to show you this object. I really wanted to show you that this could be this sort of aesthetically pleasing object, and it harkened to sort of my color knowledge and sort of my knowledge of aesthetics. So I wanted to give you depth, like you see in paintings. I also wanted to give you really rich colors. And I wanted to have a play with your sort of vision. So this was the final project, and I knew it was a success. I knew it was a success when both of my professors, when I showed them, they just sat there and smiled at me. They had nothing to say. So next slide. Like I said earlier, I worked on The Bachelorette and then How Far, but then I sort of threw it out. I said, I can't come to a conclusion about this yet. So what I say is you have to be willing to destroy something that you've created. So I stopped working on those pieces completely. I stopped thinking about them completely, and I created a music piece for my animation. That was one of the big things. We had to create an animation. We also had music to go with it. So what I did is that I sort of sat there and listened to this music piece that I created over and over and over and over again. And it wasn't coming to me. But finally, after a couple of weeks, I believe, and of course, about a week or two before the deadline was due, that's usually when creativity strikes, I came up with this piece. And it was me sitting around in my dorm room, listening to this music, listening to this music, listening to this music, and finally it just snapped. And I was like, I've got it. So I pulled out my sketchbook, I drew everything down on paper, and I had this animation. And so it's pretty much done within, I don't know, about 30 minutes of me sketching out these drawings. And it's titled Oshi. Some music on?
The speakers are on.
Yeah. I wish there was sound, but there's not sound. Anyway, I'll just talk about the piece while there is no sound. So I did this very high theoretical idea of having a four-dimensional painting, and I sort of threw it out the window, and I said, you know, I had this music piece, and I came up with this vision of this little cute creature, sort of in this dream. That's why everything's in black and white. Strips away the color. And it's this idea that you count sheep whenever you try to fall asleep. So this little character is jumping around with the sheep as he's counting them. There are no numbers. And it's just the process of this little creature following these sheep, and then you'll see the conclusion about when the sheep jump over the fence, what actually happens. Because you never really see what happens after the sheep jump over the fence. So the music starts to turn to the worse. Sort of heavy breathing and really mechanical sounds. And of course, it's this giant sheep and it's really crazy eyes. And then the character realizes, oh, sheep. So, I really enjoy showing this animation because it really shows that I did begin in cartoons. Like I said, I threw out all the high theory and I went back to the cartoons and I sort of used that as a resolution for the semester. Next slide. Okay. However, in my most recent pursuits, I sort of say I let the computer draw for me. I feel as though we're in this field. A lot of my colleagues don't really follow my thoughts, but we're in this field and we deal with computers just about every day. And I thought, as a designer, what happens if I let the computer draw for me? Because I feel I'm not very skilled at hand drawing. I sort of tell myself that at least. I'm not very skilled at painting. I tell myself that as well. And I wanted to find a new interaction with the audience. And so my most recent projects, do you want to show the next one? I actually tell the computer to draw things for me. So you can see here, this project was called War Shark. There are 100 little blocks here. These would actually be probably about that large in actuality, just one at a time. And I set this program up to draw anywhere from 10 to, I believe, 500 shapes on the screen at any given time. There are hundreds of different colors that it can draw for each shape, and I have no control over it beyond that. I tell it sort of a general location of where to draw, but otherwise I have no control over it. And every time you run this program, it's completely new. So I would send this to friends, and they would just sit there and they'd tell me, oh, it's so mesmerizing. And I'd say, how long have you been watching it? Oh, ever since you sent it, and I'd look at the timestamp, it'd be 30 minutes ago. So it opens up a whole new interaction for me, for the audience, and then also the design. In future implementations, I would allow for the user to actually manipulate what they want to draw, what colors they want to draw, but for the most part, I feel as though it really has sprung forward into something new. This moves past the paintings, but it also deals with sort of the aesthetics that I've gained as a painter, using color, using form, using space, and yeah. So I also did this other project right after it. Didn't cut off. It's called Passage. It's another program where I allowed the computer to sort of draw for me. What I did this time is that I wanted a more scientific or more scientific approach. So I sampled music. I sampled the music with a fast Fourier transform, which just deals with the frequency of the music. So whenever the music becomes more frequent or it becomes louder, if we could try to get up the sound work for this one, it's really important. But it samples the music, and the idea is that if I hand this off to the user, they will be able to go in and use whatever music piece they want, and it will draw for them based upon the frequency of the music. But for presentation purposes, I had to settle on one music piece and sort of set up the drawing, set up the idea for the drawing. So what I have here is a piece that was inspired by riding on trains throughout the last semester while I was over in Europe, and just sitting there watching out the window. And I had this vision where it'd be during winter, because we're out there and it's very cold for most of the time that we're out there in Germany. And you would see these mountains off into the